Okay, we have a couple new formulas to look at. These are called the sum and difference formulas. So when you have that table in front of you, if I said to find the exact value, that's easy. You look at your table and you go, okay, cosine of 135, let's see, that's square root of 2 over 2 negative. Tangent of 210, you look through it, blah, blah, blah. You say, oh, that's square root of 3 over 3. And then sine of 5 pi 12, we'd probably have to convert that first because I don't know what that is in degrees just by looking at it, which is 75 degrees. But wait a minute, there is not a 75 degrees on our table. So we have to use these formulas. They're called sum and difference formulas because we're going to actually be able to add stuff together to equal the unknown we want. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so as you saw in your activity, this is what the sum of a sine function of a sum. Inside here is the sum. You can rewrite it as the sine of A times cosine of B plus cosine of A times sine of B. So what this does is instead of having something added together to plug into the function, now I have each individual piece that I just plug into sine and cosine, multiply and add. But then you look at 75 and you go, that's not a sum in there. What I'm going to do is rewrite it as a sum. Now I'm going to rewrite it as 30 plus 45. Those add up to 75, which means the same thing. I just rewrote it as two separate things being added together. Now, why did I pick 30 and 45? Well, 30 is on your table, and so is 45. Okay, here's what it looks like then when you plug it in. Equals sine of 30 times cosine of 45 plus cosine of 30 times the sine of 45. And then you go back to your table and you plug in the values that you're given on that table. So sine of 30 is 1/2. Cosine is square root of 2 over 2, cosine of 45, plus cosine of 30 is square root of 3 over 2 times sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Now, when you multiply fractions like this, you go straight across. So we would have the top, which is 1 times square root of 2, over the bottom, 2 and 2 is 4, plus over here, we've got the square root of 3 times the square root of 2 over 4. This first one's easy. 1 times square root of 2 is just square root of 2. Plus, now this might be the part where you don't forget these rules. When you multiply two radicals together, that equals the square root of those two values multiplied together. So all that is the square root of 6, and that's over 4. So if I combine those together into one fraction, I get the square root of 2 plus the square root of 6 all over 4. And that's where we're going to leave it. So now this one over here on the right, similarly, you can use the subtraction formula that says you can subtract two angles, and this becomes the formula. Now, if you notice, the only difference, sum and difference. So difference. Since this is a sum, that become a plus. this is a difference, that is a subtraction. I called it addition subtraction formulas, but it's more often called sum and difference formulas or identities. Must be your favorite word now, huh? Okay, so if we rewrite the sign of 15 as the sign of 45 minus 30, making sure that it gives us a positive 15, then we can use this new formula. So now it's going to become the sine of 45 times the cosine of 30 minus the cosine of 45 times the sine of 30. Okay, filling in all our values again. This is square root of 2 over 2. This cosine is square root of 3 over 2 minus square root of 2 over 2. Sine of 30 is 1/2. Right. Combining the numerators over the denominators. Remember, when you multiply radicals, you can combine the stuff that's inside, so that becomes square root of 6 over 4 minus square root of 2 over 4. Combining those into one fraction, square root of 6 minus square root of 2 all over 4. You cannot combine radicals like that in the top. You can't add them or subtract them because they don't have the same thing underneath. That was the rule with radicals. All right, let's look at cosine now then. So cosine of a plus b is equal to cosine a cosine b minus sine a sine b. So cosine and sine have a couple of differences. First one is, if you look back here at the sine formulas, it was sine of a times cosine of b plus cosine of a times sine of b. When it comes to cosine, it's cosine cosine and sine sine. And it was plus here, which means it's minus there. That's forgotten a lot, so make sure that you're watching for that. That's a common mistake. So again, we're going to split this up into two angles that we know are on the unit circle. So looking through, we've just got to find two that add up to 165. So the first ones I think of are 120 and 45. Okay, then we'll just plug it into the formula just like before. Cosine of 120 times the cosine of 45 minus, because cosine's weird, the sine of 120 times sine of 45. All right, plugging in from our table. This guy right here is negative 1/2. This guy is our favorite square root of 2 over 2 minus, because sine is weird, cosine's weird, sorry. Sine of 120 is square root of 3 over 2 positive, and sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Okay, same simplifying. We've got on top 1 times square root of 2 over 4 minus square root of 3 times square root of 2 over 4. It's negative square root of 2 minus square root of 6 over 4 equals negative square root of 2 minus square root of 6 all over 4. As you notice, these are all coming out with square root of 2s and square root of 6s. It doesn't happen all the time, but when you pick values like this to add or subtract to something, it is going to happen. Okay, excuse me. So I'm going to do this next one, and I'm going to write it as a subtract. Obviously, this is big. It would probably be easier to do it as sum, but I want to practice doing the difference formula. So let's write 285 as, let's see, 330 minus 285 is 45. Okay, let's do 330 minus 45. You don't have to use the difference formula if you don't want to. This is just me trying to demonstrate it a little bit more. And we've got the cosine. Okay, formula says to split it up into cosine of 330 times the cosine of 45. Now we're subtracting this time, so it's going to be a plus right here because cosine's weird. And the rest of the formula says sine of 330 times the sine of 45. Okay, plugging in what we know. We've got cosine of 330 is positive square root of 3 over 2 times, you should know this one by heart now, cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Sine of 330 is 1/2. Sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Multiplying together. All right, working this out. Get it down to right row. I made a mistake. Did anybody catch it? What quadrant is 330 in? It is in quadrant 4, which means my sine value here was supposed to be negative. Ooh, I'm telling. But all that changes is down here instead of square root of 6 plus 2. Square root of 6 minus square root of 2. It's just going to be the square root of 6 minus square root of 2 over 4. And that's as far as you have to go. Okay,